Hello, everyone. Today we want to take a look at the new meshing features in Recap and Revit 2026. The process is as follows. We start with the point cloud. Then we create the mesh in Recap 2026. This will take a few hours. We will see if it is worth the effort. Then we export the mesh. Finally, we can import the mesh into Revit. But now, let's have a look at the details. Here we have a nice point cloud with about 600 million points. Here I'm on a panoramic image. For this experiment, we're going to focus on this area. You can see the cables and this green control panel. If we go back to the original point cloud, it looks like this. We see less detail. We miss the cables, for example. The image does not have the same quality, but we understand the content and we can rely on good 3D coordinates, even if the objects are small and curved. For the actual meshing, I go to this local option here. I choose the highest resolution and keep all the default settings. Then I hit Submit, which will take a couple of hours. Then we get a nice mesh. Here in the mesh editor, I have to wait a bit. Now I can dive in. Let me see if I can find the same position with the green control panel. Here it is. Of course, we can see that the structures are not as good as in the point cloud and much worse than in the panorama image, but it's not too bad for an automated meshing. The last step would be to export the mesh. Here we have a wavefront OBJ file. For this format, we can also choose a texture. Loading a large OBJ file is not an option in current Revit. It would just be too slow. The default would be to select the RCMR recap mesh format. But unfortunately, there is no texture option for this format. Then we press Export. In Revit, we now find a new ribbon. Here we can link the recap mesh model. We select the same file that we just exported. We get this tree here and we can activate the data. What we see is that we get no colors, no texture, but the mesh is really fast. We can use it in Revit without any problems. Here we have the same position with the green control panel. It is no longer green. Without the texture, we see that we really have mesh artifacts. So I don't know if it's a good idea to model based on this mesh. Let's compare the results. Here we have the panoramic image with all the details. Here we see the optimized point cloud. And here we have the mesh in with a good texture. But we can already see the artifacts of the mesh triangles. Here is the mesh in Revit 2026. Without colors, it does not seem to be as useful as advertised. However, the performance of the pure mesh in Revit is spectacular and deserves recognition. Thank you very much.